What's up guys, YvensB here. Summer is at the door, which means one thing. We're shooting outdoors. Shooting outdoors requires one thing, understanding how natural light works for your own style. In this video / behind the scenes, I'll show you 5 ways to take your natural light portrait to another level. Here they are. Tip number 1. Use a background and contrast with your subject. The issue you will face when making natural light portraits is that you cannot perfectly control the subject light exposure versus the background. A way to fight this is to use the power of contrast to make your subject pop in the environment. A quick example here is if your subject has fair skin and hair like the model you see in this video, plus if she's wearing mostly light clothing, placing her next to something dark like that green silo will help create contrast, separating the subject from the background, thus creating a pop. The opposite is also true. A subject with dark features of clothing on a light textured wall, for an example, is also a great way to make the subject stand out. Try it out for yourself. The next tip will help you plan your shoot for a better natural light session. Tip number 2. Sun position, time of the day, and weather conditions matters. These are not firm rules by any means, but shooting at noon or at high sun on a clear day is generally much more difficult than shooting an hour or two before sunset. When the sun is at its zenith or high point, you tend to see these squinty looks from your subject since the light is at its highest intensity, making your portraits just a bit more difficult. Depending on where you live, plan your shoots 2 to 3 hours past zenith to get a much more manageable natural light. If you absolutely have to shoot at noon or high sun, tip number 5 will definitely help you bridge that gap between a very harsh light and a soft light, so make sure to watch the rest of this video. So now I can hear you, but what about the weather? Weather conditions will change the mood of your portrait session. If you're going for a moody or ethereal or desaturated look like the weather conditions in this video, a cloudy day will be perfect for your portrait session. A fun weather condition is in between cloudy and sun where the sky is touched by the clouds. It can make for a really interesting look if you know what you're doing. Sunny days are also awesome for those bright and saturated pictures where you see people having a good time. The next tip will help you with your in-camera settings. Tip number 3. Shoot raw. Recent cameras are awesome. The dynamic range that they offer is really amazing and can be advantageous when using natural light. Shooting in a native raw format of your camera can save photos from unusable to actually decent. A trick that some photographers use to take full advantage of the camera's capabilities is called foul pushing. Foul pushing, or also called shoot to edit, is still a controversial term in the photo world as purists tend to want perfect exposure in camera, but that's not our goal here. Just to take a look at photo forums online, I understand why people are really mad about it. So what is foul pushing? Foul pushing is simply underexposing a certain element of your camera and pushing it in post so you can recover more details. We all know that it's easier to recover underexposed photos versus recovering blown out or overexposed photos. So we're taking advantage of that technology. First, set your camera to RAW. Then, during your portrait session, underexpose your portrait by half a stop or a full stop depending on the conditions you want to achieve. To make sure you're not going too far, just make sure your histogram has a great spread like in these examples. When you get to your editing station, import the RAWs into Camera Raw or your editing software, such as Capture One. There are 3 main sliders you can play in Camera Raw to correct basic exposure. 1. Exposure. Exposure will influence the entire image's brightness. 2. Shadows. Shadow slider in the Camera Raw will recover underexposed shadows in your images. 3. Highlights. Highlights recover areas of your image that are overexposed or near 255 as an RGB value. So right now you just have to play around with those sliders until you find something you like and it's to your style, and voila, you now have a decent image to edit. So the next tip is one of the best tips for portraits you can actually find in any situations. Tip number 4. Window light is your best friend. What is better than those big frosty window light? Window light is a wrapping soft light that helped the career of many photographers. If I see a window, I try to see if there's something interesting there. And if you want to make that natural light extra soft for your portrait session, just add window shears to soften the light if the sun is blazing that day or just for a very dreamy mood. For a fill, add a V-flat to the opposite side of the subject to raise shadows, or use it as a solid background if whatever is behind your subject is boring or ugly. For the last tip, we'll present to you two inexpensive tools to use in your natural light portraiture. Final tip number 5. Reflectors and ŠCRIMS are your friend. If your session is at noon on a sunny day and the time cannot be moved, ŠCRIMS or reflector will be tremendously helpful. There are solutions out there other than flash or strobes. First are ŠCRIMS. ŠCRIMS are simply a diffusion fabric that softens any light, may it be the sun or a flash. Typical ŠCRIMS are called ŠCRIMS and sold by many companies such as Westcott, or can actually be made at home. You can use a lot of different materials to behave like a ŠCRIM, such as cotton or even shower curtains in a pinch. Placing the ŠCRIM will soften the light on your subject's skin, helping achieve that dreamy/foggy look that is so sought after. To boot, people with blue or pale eyes will tell you, like the subject in this video, that sunlight is very difficult to deal with since they're much more sensitive to intense sunlight. Placing a ŠCRIM on top of them will shield them for that harsh light, plus will soften the light for your camera and help those actually subject with pale eye color. Everyone wins. Special note, ŠCRIMS can be a pain on a high windy day since they act like a sail. Having an assistant or a bunch of sandbags here will be useful. As you can see, I tried miserably to do it myself and it wasn't pleasant. Reflectors are a great way to control the light in most situations, and every photographer should own a 5-in-1 reflector. Every photographer. Regardless of your style, natural light photographer or strobist, reflectors are a key tool to use the sun as a means to either illuminate your subject or raise shadows. The different colors in the 5-in-1, so silver, gold, white, negative fill or ŠCRIM, will bounce lights to create different highlights. Simply walk around your subject to find the best angle with the reflector. Again, here an assistant is really helpful to hold the ŠCRIM in a very bizarre manner. So my question to you is, do you have any other tips? Please share them in the comments below for the community. If you want to have a space to share your shots, join our Facebook community. Also, remember to give this video a like and subscribe for more videos like these. Cheers, happy shooting, and good luck.